11 times larger than the dimensions of the typical Earth. Over 300 times larger than the original size. Moreover, it is 1,000,000 times more terrible than the previous one. On the other hand, Jupiter is truly a gaseous hell on the inside, despite the fact that it looks to be a beautiful ball of clouds that are spinning about within itself. If the ruler of the solar system were to experience a change in the course of events, what would be the consequences? Could you imagine what would take place if Jupiter were not a gas giant at all? In the event that it turned out to be a gigantic rock, what would happen? Moreover, what would the surface of it appear to be like? To what extent could this planet be made habitable by certain factors? And if you were to make an attempt to walk on it, what kinds of impacts would you encounter? The following is an example of a what-if scenario, which describes the conditions that would prevail if Jupiter were composed of rocky particles. These planets are quite old. A time period that occurred around 4.5 billion years ago. In the beginning, it was a disk of gas and dust that was moving around, and over time, it evolved into a pretty substantial planetary core. The core of Jupiter has grown larger over the course of time, which has resulted in an increasing amount of rock, ice, and metal being drawn to it. Jupiter, on the other hand, was not going to turn into a stone planet in the future. No. It has an insatiable appetite for a wide variety of gas compounds. In point of fact, Jupiter's huge gravitational attraction was responsible for the attraction of enormous quantities of hydrogen and helium, which finally led to the construction of the majestic gas giant that we are familiar with today. On the other hand, what if the events had transpired in a different manner? What would happen if Jupiter continued to gather more rocky materials until it became the greatest huge terrestrial globe in the solar system? What would happen? This is what Jupiter would have experienced if it had been filled with gas. Is there a chance that this would be the catastrophe that brings about the end of everything in the regions that surround our planet? In order to accomplish the goals of this Jupiterocalypse, we shall, if at all feasible, keep Jupiter at its current size. There is only rock and no gas at this point in time. If Jupiter were to continue to expand, its size would reach incomprehensible dimensions. In the event that this globe were to keep its gas giant shape, it would be 4 times heavier than it is now. It is also essential to keep in mind that Jupiter, the gas giant, already possesses a mass that is roughly equivalent to twice as much as the total mass of all the other planets in the solar system. And along with this enormous mass would come a gravity that is incomprehensible to anyone who has ever tried to comprehend it. This means that from this moment forward, the gravitational pull that rocky Jupiter exerts will be 4 times stronger than it was in the past. Furthermore, that is nearly 10 times more powerful than the gravity that you and I experience here on Earth. This is the case. There is no way that you could possibly walk on this stone planet, Jupiter. It is simply not conceivable. At that precise instant, your body would be subjected to a gravitational pull that was so powerful that it would cause your bones to break. Your heart would have to beat so hard that it would beat out of your chest in order for it to be able to pump blood through your body. Due to the fact that your blood was beginning to pool in your lower body, you would have symptoms of lightheadedness and dizziness. Regardless, it is likely that you do not enjoy walking on this Jupiter. This is another possibility. The effect of this would be that the rocky planet that dominates the solar system will attract an even higher number of moons and asteroids. Additionally, some of them would be moving in the direction of the rocky giant, which would result in a collision between the two masses. On the other hand, what would the appearance of its surface be like? It is probable that, if it were not for the frequent collisions with asteroids, it may be a pretty nice area to visit. However, this condition is not the case. Additionally, if you were able to walk there, it would be ideal. Jupiter would lie outside of the habitable zone of the solar system, despite the fact that it would be composed of sedimentary rocks. On the other hand, this does not indicate that the temperature of the Earth would be exceedingly low. Jupiter is an extremely massive planet. Furthermore, rocky Jupiter has the ability to retain a sizable portion of the heat that was once contained within its interior at the time that it was formed. As a consequence of this, it is possible that the surface temperatures of rocky Jupiter are comparable to those of our planet, despite the fact that Jupiter is located a large distance from the Sun in comparison to Earth. There is a possibility that the oceans there are exceptionally warm. It is probable that Jupiter's gravity is the cause of the planet having a very thick atmosphere. Planets that have thick atmospheres have, as you might assume, high atmospheric pressure. Jupiter's gravity could be also responsible for the planet's thick atmosphere. The conclusion that can be drawn from this is that the temperature at which water boils on this rocky behemoth would be higher than the temperature at which water boils on Mother Earth. Furthermore, it is possible for the oceans to be liquid even when they are at temperatures as high as 390 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Celsius. We are not going to go swimming at that spot, at least not at this time. Even if you were able to walk on this world thanks to some kind of technology, you would not want to breathe on it since it might be too dangerous. Hydrogen and helium make up the majority of Jupiter's atmosphere, which is associated with the gas giant of Jupiter. On the other hand, if the atmosphere of the rocky planet Jupiter was also made mainly of hydrogen and helium, then it would not be one that could be breathed in. Following then, there would be lightning storms that would take place afterwards. There are already massive storms in Jupiter's clouds, and rocky Jupiter would not be any different from the rest of the atmosphere if it were to be rocky. If there were also active volcanoes on this planet that released ash and lava, then the lightning storms would be significantly more intense than they are at the moment. Volcanoes, on the other hand, have the potential to be exceptionally beneficial for the hard rock subgenre. They have the capability of emitting substances that have the potential to change the atmosphere of rocky Jupiter, so making it possible for people to live there. Additionally, if not for you, then possibly for other aspects of life it could be for other people. Furthermore, those other forms of life could pose a significant risk to the environment. In order for them to be able to withstand the intense gravity of Jupiter, it is probable that they are already larger and more powerful than dinosaurs. On the other hand, it is possible that these are microscopic bacteria that are capable of living beneath the rocky surface of Jupiter. On the other hand, that is most certainly a great deal less interesting. The reality of the situation is that the increasing gravity of Jupiter would cause our planet to be thrown out of its stable orbit, which would lead to a substantial change in the climate of the entire world. In the event that the Earth were to be transported closer to the Sun, this world would be turned into a place that is both hot and terrible. On the other hand, we might be pushed further away from the Sun, which would result in our bodies freezing over. There is no question that this is not a piece of good news for you. Furthermore, the Earth would not be the only planet to be moved from its orbit. Other planets would also be affected. In every single part of the solar system, there would be a state of complete and utter orderlessness. As a consequence of this, the planets and moons would be driven off course, and some of them would come into touch with one another. The situation would be quite chaotic. The only thing that could be done was to keep one's fingers crossed and pray that nothing would happen on Earth. However, are you aware of something? Possibly, the situation is considerably more terrible.